All right, guys. So I've been kind of trying to think about how best to do a lathe base setup video. I do have some images of the build, which is very important because this base is, for one, hollow and filled with sand, and for two, extremely well built. It weighs by itself about 200 pounds, and I have space for about 350 to 400 pounds of sand in the base. At some point, I will be putting in some cabinets as well as drawers. I just, at this point, needed the structure built. It is not built out of modern wood. This is old, well, not real old, but 20, 30-year-old 2x6s. They're very dense, much harder and stronger. The top is built out of, as I trip over my stupid step that I'm putting in, the top is built out of 150-year-old reclaimed wood that I have inlaid all the knot holes all the way around, as you see, even back into the tool displays, over and into the helmet display as well, and all the way across is all epoxied. Now, as you'll see in a moment, I'll show you some of the pictures. In the base, there is an H-frame built on each side that houses a 4x6 with 2x4s glued and screwed to each side to make it roughly 9 inches wide by 4 inches thick. And then this is another 8 inches by about 4 inches thick with 8-inch, half-inch thick lag bolts going all the way through not only the top beam, but the top and into the base beam. Now the base beam is just set in there, but the whole point of a lathe is it will rack and shake. It's not so much gonna lift up or down or none of that weird shit. So anyways, that is my setup. This top up here is about, I don't know, 20 years old. I just tore it apart and rebuilt it and set it up for all the new tools, because these are all new tools except for these three here, which I actually made decades ago when I first started turning because I couldn't afford tools. So I made them. Anyways, I have the nice set lathe tool sharpening setup here. I've got all my gauges up top on a custom mount, as well as all my pieces running down on the face of the sanding station. And then I've got my grinder with the places to put it all in. Now, this area here is very tight. I'm still working on some workflow, but when I turn, I will maneuver this around a little bit. But yeah, let's take a look at the pictures of the base. This is the only way I could really think of to do it. So what we have here is the 4 legs. They are glued, screwed, and then gusseted with almost 1/4 inch thick plates and 3/8 inch bolts. Now, these joints are all splined with 1 inch by 3/4 inch thick splines, and there is probably close to half a gallon of glue in this entire structure. As we go on, you'll see the side, one side that is gusseted and plated and glued and everything you can think of. And then it is closed off because, like I say, the legs were meant to hold sand too. I just chose to only put sand in the bottom in the end. The H-frame is not in at this point, unfortunately. I don't really have a good picture of that. But as we go on, this is a side view. You'll see all of these joints all spline in together everywhere, and it is all glued and very strong and very heavy. Now here you'll see the beam. Like I say, this is a 4x6 beam with 2x4s married to the side, and there is the top of the H-frame that you can see to keep this from racking, because I wanted the top and the base to be separate, all easier to put together than trying to move it all in one. As we move on, you'll see a picture of it being stained, but you see all this area down here is all meant for sand to keep it stable and to reduce vibrations. So I'm slowly filling that up. I've only got about 100 pounds, maybe a little bit more in there now, but I've got plans to put some more and some rock as well to make it not just sand, so it's easier to clean out later. I thought about sandbags, but that would be kind of difficult too, but I will do some larger pieces in there to make it not as much of a mess later. That is the top. It was, God, I want to think 32 inches roughly wide by, I think the top altogether was almost 80 inches in the beginning. before I cut it down to the 79.5. So it's 79 by 32-ish wide. And it is all flattened by hand by me with a belt sander because I never had a planer, so I always learned how to do the shit with the sander. Now that is a picture of it is installed, and that pretty much puts it at where we're at now. Like I say, this is a dream setup. I have a lot of stuff. I mean, I got very lucky to get this. This was pennies on the dollar. I've got the Leeson Speedmaster and the Nova Lathe. It's real slow to take off. Goes real fast. I can use the brake. I can do forward and reverse. It also has the head that swivels out for doing bowls, but I never planned on doing that in this setup. Just don't have the space, but I have the whole 3, or the extra 2 leaves, or whatever the hell you call these extra 2 rails to make it a full length. I've never measured it, but I'm guessing it's about 50 inches. And then I've got all my tools. I was going to put dust collection, and I already have it back here. One of the pipes prepped to come down and come in, and I was going to put dust collection right here, but none of the dust tends to go in the back. It stays very light amount of dust back there so far. Now, I haven't done anything real big yet. I've just done a little bit of playing, so we'll see. Most of the dust tends to congregate right here, and I just grab my vacuum head and vacuum it up. It makes it real easy. So I haven't decided if I actually am going to put dedicated dust collection yet. I still plan on cleaning this up here a little bit, raising it up and boxing it in. But at this point, it was just kind of, I've had a lot of projects going, and I'm very particular about things like making plates. This is not just a little plate there. This is I put a lot of time and effort into building this mount and designing it the way it is and making it so that it all just fits right over the top of this already epoxy beam. I didn't want to screw anything to it, but I wanted it secure, and it is. All of my plates and tool holders and things like that, I try to make look very nice because I like my shop nice and I like my things nice. Some of this stuff is old, and yeah, well, I guess getting the blower in here kind of screwed things up, but like that old hammer mount, I made that 25 years ago when I first started doing lathe work. This hammer here actually came out of the ground when I was about 5 years old at a job site. I dug it out of the ground, got all the rust off it, cleaned it up, made this handle for it out of another hammer that my dad had laying around. And I've had this since I was 5 or 6 years old, whatever it was. When I started doing lathe work, I realized it worked really, really good for getting the bark off and mounting your splines and drives and stuff like that. So I've had that itty bitty little stupid mount, and it's transferred from box to plate to wherever I've had my lathe set up over the years. And it just makes me happy to have things look nice. But this is my lathe setup. I know this has been long. I know there's probably some things that I didn't really go over, but if you have any questions, please ask. Like I say, this is a setup that in my wildest dreams, I never thought I'd have one Nova chuck. And I am fortunate enough to have 5 now, as well as some tools that I would have never imagined. But as you can see, first off, for all you reel turners out there, I did not make these handles. I would never use a taped, broken tool. I've just acquired this setup recently, and I haven't been able to get those fixed. But these, and believe me, before they are ever used, they will be properly done. That is not a proper handle for a fucking tool. This here, hardwood, hickory, whatever, but not a piece of friggin' pine or cedar, whatever the hell that is, with a stupid dinky copper collet on the top. That is not safe. And as you'll see, unfortunately, every one of these fucking tools is burned. Every fucking one of them has been destroyed. And I'm going to have to go through and re-tip every one of them. But I have not gotten to that point because I've been so busy, I have not been turning. But for now, it is what it is, and it does what I need it to do, and I can make some projects and have some fun, and I am very blessed. I'd like to be able to share my shop with people, and I'm trying to figure out a way to possibly do a maker's or creators central in my shop, you know. Not a lot of people get to have a setup like this. I am blessed. I mean, I really know in my heart how lucky I am to have this, and how much more could be done with it with somebody that knew what the fuck they were doing instead of some untrained asshole like me. But I do what I do, and I try to have fun, and it's the way it is. You know, today's project was this right here. Just for shits and giggles, a unicorn spit English mount deer skull on an old rusty piece of this wood here, this same wood that was from that same house, torn down back in the 30s, built in the 1890s as far as I remember, so who knows when the wood was milled. But anyways, I've wanted to do an in-depth look at my lathe for quite some time and show you all the base. I know the pictures and the way I explained it didn't really do it justice. But like I say, this still only has a couple 100 pounds of sand in it. And I mean, it has a little bit of flex, but I'm a 200-pound guy. So it is what it is. It ain't moving with the kind of shit that I use. So anyways, that's it for this video. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.